All right. Conversations with Friends. Again, episodes 6, 7, 8. I'm Corinne.
I'm
You're
Kate.
And we're Pop Fiction Women. And we are talking this show to its very last ounce. And unlike other recaps that we do, even when we do a whole series like this, I feel like every time I come on with a completely different thesis. Episodes 1 and 2, I'm like, okay, tracking the book. Totally tracking the book. Very, I'm loving it. I'm just seeing it come to life, blah, blah, blah. Episodes 3, 4, 5, I was like, ooh, they're bringing Bobby and Frances to the forefront, which is maybe how the book really was intended the whole time.
Same but different was kind of that thesis.
Yes.
Like it's same but different. Different
Right.
emphasis.
Different emphasis, but also still true to the book.
Correct.
Still true to the book here in 6, 7, and 8. But I have a whole, this is really one woman's journey to losing herself, finding herself, all of it, the whole spectrum of it. Are you getting that sense with these two? Especially these 3 episodes.
Yes. But these 3, I know they do track the book. I mean, it's not as if they ever, with a Sally Rooney adaptation, and we're only on the second one, but were they ever, really veer far off?
Not the way A Little Fires Everywhere did, which was completely introduced new things that were nowhere in the book.
But yet these 3 it does feel different to me. I'm getting, like we said, with 3, 4, 5, it was just a different emphasis to focus on the Bobby and Frances. We saw that in the book, but we saw it towards the end. And as we said, if we had went back and reread it, we would see what they were putting on the screen more. But this, I'm sort of like, I don't know. It feels different. It feels,
it feels very focused on Frances. Now, Nick is involved and Bobby is involved, but it feels like they put these together they put these scenes together that were maybe a little bit more spread out throughout the book, because I think I think all of these scenes were in the book. But
I think so. There might be lines here or there that I'm like, I don't know if they said that, but I haven't cross-checked. But the story was always Frances's story.
Yes, but it
even
was
in the book.
Yeah, but it was so relational. Sally.
Right.
It was so relational, and this feels a little bit more about her as and dare I say, an individual. And it's kind of blasphemy when you're talking about Sally Rooney, but I don't know.
Look at me. I'm like, no, but I think that's it.
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
Yeah.
And because, again, I know we said this, there's so much interiority in her books, but they managed to, and that makes it a challenge, no doubt, to adapt. But somehow they've managed it before. Her books are always sort of similar in that regard.
Yeah.
And I feel like in these 3, we don't get the interiority, and somehow we took out the correspondence, emails, and otherwise with Nick. So that I'm not even from the relational standpoint, I'm not getting what I got out of the book.
No.
So then, now there's still a lot with Bobby. They're still focusing on that.
Yeah.
But, like we said, when we did the book, this question of can you love more than one person, and that does not come through here. I don't feel like I'm seeing, even if they wanted to emphasize more the Bobby and Frances love story, but then I want to definitely have a competing or simultaneous pull to the Frances Nick love story. And then I want to sit here and go, oh my God, like I did in the book, can you love 2 people?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Yeah.
Whereas this,
it feels more like what happens when you lose yourself in love and you try to define yourself alternatively by 2 people. One.
Yes.
So both equally unavailable in different ways, but also not what she's meaning to do, which is actually find herself. So it does feel, I'm with you. It feels very different. Is there anything you want to, I really don't, there's a lot of her health stuff, a lot of her parents stuff. I really want to pick up at 8 unless there's anything that you want to highlight from 6 or 7.
Yeah, well,
which go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. Like 6, like you said, definitely a lot of her health issues for at least the beginning of that episode. But they're also still reckoning with the Bobby finding out about Nick and Frances and her walking in and post Croatia. And, you know, I thought the exchange they had, you know, about why you didn't tell me, you know, Bobby's asking her, why didn't you tell me about Nick? It's kind of embarrassing. And she said, it's as if we're in wildly different versions of this friendship, which I thought was really interesting. I don't remember that line if it was in there, but
I don't remember it either.
Yeah, and she's hurt. And then what does Bobby do? Then she tries to call Bobby, I'm sorry, and because they need to talk in person, but she can't reach her. So what does Frances do? She does that whole thing, which she did do in the book, where she searches all their old messages.
For feelings.
You know, yes. But in the book, she searched for love, too, the word love, didn't she? And feelings.
Both of them.
Yeah. So then, I don't remember this either, though, but she says, you know, there was an exchange, like, you don't really talk about your feelings. And Frances says, I'm just not very emotional. And Bobby's
I remember this.
Unemotional is not a quality someone could have. That's like claiming not to be very alive. I'm like, can't people be unemotional? I don't understand. No?
Yeah, well, I think Frances kicks back to that and says they can be, just because you are that. I remember that exchange in the book because it was really a big aha moment for me, because I do have that same tendency. I think if people aren't wildly emotional, I'm like, you're hiding something, or it's repressed,
it's suspicious.
Or deep down.
Yeah.
It's suspicious. Yeah. And then I'm like, I think I just have a lot more emotional volatility in my own self than other people do.
Yeah.
So I know,
and I'm
that.
with Frances, because I'm like, I don't know that I do. On some things I do, but on a lot of things I'm like, I actually don't feel strongly about that. So I don't know. Maybe I am repressed. But then, so there was a lot of the Bobby Frances dealing with each other, and her mom telling her, you know, do me a favor and make up with Bobby. I don't remember that either. Like I hate to see you like this. But then they do finally talk, and Bobby says, if I hadn't walked in, would you have ever told me? And she says, it's embarrassing walking in and feeling like I was the one who shouldn't be there. And I'm like, but Bobby, you shouldn't have been there. You walked in on those two. But again, it's all about, there's a lot of emphasis on, you know, Bobby and Frances.
Yeah.
She said it horrified me, you
to
know,
feel like an intruder.
Yeah.
In your
but
life.
then Frances is like, that's horrifying for you to feel like an intruder. It doesn't even make sense. Honestly, when I think of my life, I imagine you at the center. I don't remember that line either.
But this is a big moment. I agree. I don't. But
they are
that.
Really, and there were some moments when we talked about them. But this was, I just felt like this Bobby Frances again was just so much of that, when really Nick in that episode, you know, she tried to call him when she thought maybe it was a miscarriage from the hospital. He's like, are you drunk? And then she's like, forget it, and hangs up. So it's really not.
That was as is, but you're right. It's not a lot of content.
It's not a lot of content. And I get it. Yeah. She doesn't want to tell him, but there was a lot she didn't want to tell Bobby either in the book about her illness. So this just seemed very focused on them. And then it's sort of, he comes around at the end of that episode. They end up talking, and then in 7. But also, one of the things we loved talking about so much was Nick being passive and who's in control. And there's been a couple lines, and there was one in 6, you know, she says he's actually pretty passive. You know, Bobby was asking if they use birth control.
Yep.
And she was kind of mad at him, like, you know, and Frances was like, he's actually pretty passive. She's like, but he could have said no. Yeah. And that's when she did give the line, which is in the book. Like, maybe he just acts passive so he doesn't have to take blame for anything. But you can't really get into this stuff that we loved about.
Yeah, I think they're trying to do it more through the acting.
I know.
The way she always initiates, the way, you know, it does feel like he is being passive and just kind of taking whatever comes to him. But it doesn't feel quite as debatable. I guess it feels more actually true. My thing in the book was I didn't think that was true. I thought he was not passive. It's just that he wasn't giving her what she wanted. And so, and then alternately did. And so it was like whether he was passive or active or whether he controlled her life or not was about which part of himself he was, catering to.
Right.
And this just feels like he is just passive.
You just see it. Yeah. You just see it. Yeah. Okay. So maybe, that's
There's
a good
not so
point.
much to debate.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And then in 7, just they now, there's a lot of them together now hooking up and all that. But, we got a dance scene. We get 2 dance scenes, but they're so short, by the way.
They are so short.
So short. Why do we get these little... Anyway.
I don't know.
But that one, there was just another thing that I don't remember with this whole Bobby Francis, Nick Francis. So in 7, they're having a lot of sex scenes, but he's getting dressed in her room and he sees this poem on the wall that she says Bobby gave that. He's like, this is beautiful. And she's like, oh, Bobby gave it to me. And then he's like, how is Bobby? Oh, she's good, whatever. Does she mind me coming over? No. And he's trying to say, well, this is kind of probably a big deal. This is the first relationship you've been in since you two were together. Is it strange for her? And she's like, well, she's the one that broke up with me. He's like, how is that relevant? Which I actually thought was a good answer.
Yeah.
And she's, and then she's just like, gets happy because he referred to them as a relationship. But I don't remember either, just like post-sex, the first thing those two talk about is a poem Bobby gave her. And then Nick has the, I don't know what the word, but he seems like a shrink. Like, let's analyze that, have you thought about how Bobby might feel about this? And I'm like, I don't remember. No. But I just have a problem with that. Again, back to my other point. I'm not going to get as invested in whether Nick's in love with Francis and Francis is in love with Nick when even Nick is inserting Bobby into their relationship. So that seemed like a change that, again, is probably having the effect among these other things we're talking about of me just not understanding where this part's going with Nick and Francis the way I felt in the book.
Yeah. I think that's intended. I don't know that it's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it's what's intended. I don't think if you do look at the whole book, if you look at it through the eyes of the fact that she was only with Nick as sometimes a distraction, sometimes a weapon, sometimes a comfort, but all of it was really not, it was all secondary to the way she loves Bobby, then all of this makes sense. You shouldn't be invested in the two of them. They're not good together. They're each other's secondary love choices. So it's like,
so these additions or slight changes are emphasizing that even more.
Yeah, I think so. I think they couldn't have emphasized it in the book because we didn't know it till the end. And then you had to rethink it. This is them, as we've talked about, rethinking.
I guess I kind of liked it better that way, though. Yeah. So that then, right? Because now there doesn't seem, that's probably why it was written that way. Because if she wanted to, she could have written it more obviously all along. So they've decided to make it more obvious all along. And then I'm just not that into the Nick Francis thing. And I'm not saying I wanted to be into it because I believe that she should ultimately be with Nick. Like he said, he'd pull Melissa out of a burning building before he pulled out her. So, but there is just, I wanted to be more invested in it. So it felt like more of a, not a decision maybe, but I don't know, this conflict over what's the first love? I don't know.
Yeah. I think that in the book, it was more of a question. Can you love two people? And I think the point here is that you cannot. And when you think you are you fooling yourself? And which one are you fooling yourself about?
Yes.
I think that, and that's slightly different. It is. It's slightly different. It really is. It might not seem like it is, but I think it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So episode 8, this is clearly not in the book because she was not, she didn't have a book launch, right? In the book?
Nope.
Right?
No.
Yeah. So
I think she was working on a book, but there was certainly no launch party like this.
Yeah, and she was also writing essays and publishing in photography and whatever. But anyway, so in episode 8, we're at the book launch, and we see that Frances is first jealous of Nick and Melissa, and then Bobby brings the bartender home, and Frances does that really shitty thing where she sees like Nick put his arm around Melissa, and then so she grabs Bobby. First of all, it was incredibly awkward.
Yes. But talk about your point all along, which has been everything is a reaction to Bobby or I mean,
Yeah. And there she would felt herself losing her grip on whatever she had over Bobby through Nick. And then she's like grabbing Bobby. Oh,
yeah, and she's like, don't fucking use me. I was like, right on, Bobby.
Good, yes.
It's true. That was gross.
Yeah, it was. And awkward and all, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like in this episode, and I think someone says it to her, I think I wrote it down at some point, like, she's a mess. She's a mess. Oh, no, Bobby says to her, you're becoming, I feels like I'm watching you disappear.
Yes.
And that's how it feels to me too. Who is Frances? Is she going after Nick? Is she going after Bobby? Is she trying to make everybody jealous? Is she positioning, is she only doing it because Nick's married? Is she only doing it because whatever? It's like, it feels like, who is Frances? I only know who like Nick and Bobby are. I don't know who Frances is or what she wants.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
No,
she doesn't
neither
know.
does she. Exactly. And this is when she goes on the Tinder date, talk about not knowing what she wants.
Which you said was a throwaway in the book. They've made it a much bigger deal here. And they've also made it a bigger deal in that they added in the Bobby.
Of course. Then it was an exact
incident.
reaction.
So I don't know.
Bobby.
Right. But it could have been Nick and Melissa at the launch. But then also Bobby brings the bartender home from the launch. And that is immediately when she goes on Tinder. So,
so both her people.
Yeah.
Melissa,
Yes.
Nick is obviously with his wife, and she's sitting because also at the launch. Yes. But at the launch is when she says our favorite line that we've referenced so many times. She says to Bobby, Nick and Melissa look happy. And she's like, obviously, if there was a burning building, he'd save Melissa. So she sees that and they look doting, but she also realizes she's the second choice. And then she goes home, and you're right, Bobby now brings home someone else. And so she's reacting really, I think, to both things by then immediately going on Tinder because she doesn't know what to do. Now what do I do? Who am I?
Yes.
And who am I without each of them? And goes on this horrible
and
date.
What is it that do I want? Yes. Goes,
right.
Yes. Yeah.
And then tells Nick about it. What did you want out of that conversation? I mean, that conversation is just as bad in the book as it is here. I mean, she, why are you telling me this, basically?
Yeah.
And,
it felt worse to me. I don't know if it was just watching it. Oh,
it did. I'm like,
you're
what
just
are you
fucking
doing?
This all up. Yeah.
And he is passive, but at least on this one, Nick's like, dude, no, you can't take it out on me whenever you feel badly. I know.
But we still they're in the bedroom.
I know.
mean, he makes her dinner.
So awkward.
He says okay to sex. I mean, he really is acting very passively.
Yeah. And really only because they tried to start hooking up and it was just not, there was this hanging over them. So yeah, it really took him.
Had only when it was an elephant like sitting on him. What is he like?
He couldn't get his pants off.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't know.
I got to talk about this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
that's
boy.
true. That's true. But then, they have a fight. I don't know. How would you feel if I was sleeping with other women, then coming over to your house and going on about it? And she's like, but you're married.
Yeah.
And he's like, does that mean you can treat me however you want? And she's like, well, I don't think it's the same thing. I mean, you knew he was married. You're just purposely go sleep with a guy and come tell me about it. It's not, I've been married this whole time, basically.
Right. But it's also like, it's the same thing with the Bobby thing. Like, why would I have to think about Bobby's feelings because she dumped me? Why do I have to think about your feelings because you're married? She always puts these immediate barriers up to like, whatever I do is like for me to deal with and I have to decide. But she doesn't think about the other people because she's disqualified them from or she's disqualified herself from caring about them because of these things. She dumped me. It's her fault.
Yeah.
He's married. It's his fault. But that's not how things go. Their feelings are much more complicated than that. And she doesn't like to see that.
No, she does not.
No.
So then she has a little bit of an outburst there. The problem is not you're married. The problem is I love you, and you obviously don't feel the same. Fuck you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Does she love him?
All right. We don't even know. We
don't even know.
Yeah. We don't. We don't. She doesn't. I don't think.
I mean, it's just, and so she screams that. And then the very next scene, she's writing an essay about Bobby.
Yeah.
So.
And she comes home and she texts Bobby, "Where are you?" And Bobby's like, "I went home. I didn't know you were coming back. It's like 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night."
Right. So I don't, does she, I think that sounded like something she should yell at him, but that's not really true. Or she has no idea.
Yeah. I do think though, if he was like, I do love you and I want to leave my wife, she'd be like, okay, great. And then she would like begin the process of actually falling in love with him. But I think she's holding herself back. I don't remember that from the book either. And I thought that was interesting. He said to her, "I am going to tell Melissa after the book launch." And then she gets mad at that, which I understand her getting mad at that. That does kind of suck. Maybe she was waiting for that moment to see how real he was and like how real any of this was. And then he didn't do it.
He did say in the book that he was going to tell Melissa.
Okay.
I mean, there was no book launch, but it was, he did say he was going to tell her.
Okay.
And then he does. I mean, he did in the book.
He does?
I'm pretty sure.
I thought Bobby told Melissa.
Really?
I thought so.
Jeez. Oh my God.
I wised up after our last one.
And you got the book?
I have the book here. Right. My dog-eared pages. Look at that.
Oh my God. I know. They were crazy.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to look. I feel like I don't have the book, but I have.
Where is the letter, right? It's like here it is. 224. Right. Because I thought they had like
Nick says he told Melissa.
Okay.
He should have told her sooner. 222 to 223 is what my notes say.
Yeah.
Nick says he told Melissa and says he loves her. Should have told her sooner.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, and there was that great line I loved where he says he loves her. And she's like, "Since when?" And he said, "Since I met you. If I wanted to be philosophical about it, I'd say I loved you before then."
Do you think we're going to get that moment?
I don't know. See, this is what I'm saying. I want to believe that they're in love.
Yeah.
And again, I know that doesn't mean it might not be the secondary love, but why can't you sell me why are they mutually exclusive? Why can't you sell me that Bobby's the first one?
Yeah.
But that he's second. Right now, I don't even have him at second.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We're not really feeling it between either of them. Second only in there's only two.
There's only two people. Exactly. That's what I mean.
Not that there's like a real love, a real connection, a real feeling there. It just feels sometimes convenient, sometimes interesting, but not anything remotely looking like love to me.
Right.
Yeah.
It looks like sex, honestly, only because of the way they're also cutting. If you cut out all their emails and texts. I know there's some texts, but their texts look terrible, by the way. If you just go by the text she has with Nick, it looks like, "Oh, hey, true words. I'm great.
It's basically
you
like,
okay?
I'm sorry. And do you want to see me?
And do you want to see me? And
then after I see you, I'm going to have something else to apologize for. So I'm sorry.
Exactly. And then we get together and... Remember, even we were saying, I don't even have a problem with if the only way he can actually open up and communicate is when he's naked and horizontal.
Right.
Fine. We get barely any of those. I mean, in episode 7, they do have a talk about how they're both kind of unemotional and not vulnerable. And they're similar in that regard.
Yeah. Okay. And we have that one line in Croatia when he says, "I want you so much." And I'm like, okay.
That one came out of nowhere, too. It didn't feel like it. I want you so much.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. That is
I'm getting
it's not like palpable. Okay. No. I need it to be.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you could blame it on maybe there isn't as much chemistry between these two actors or whatever, but it's also just it's not there. They can't make that. I mean.
No, it's not. It is really has been sort of washed out, I think, in service of a different relationship. But your point is, and I agree, you can still have this. People are often very delusional. Yes. They, I thought even throughout the book, without even knowing about the Bobby stuff, I'm like, they're both delusional. They don't love each other as much as they think they do. They are using it as a receptacle for other things as well. That happens all the time. But they're not even doing that. They're just really relegated it to this backseat, ho-hum, not even throwing yourself into it position. And so, I don't know, it's taken away some of the oomph.
Right. So, I don't know. I don't know. Now, we all know sort of the mid-slump sometimes in a series. You got 12 episodes. They can't all be amazing.
That's
6, 7, 8 is often where things... But this is more of an approach here.
Yes,
that I'm
it
just,
does feel like that.
It's not just that it slumps sometimes or falls flat in the middle, but I don't know.
Yeah, this feels like a difference of an approach that is, I'm getting a little bit of a hard time even understanding what perspective we are. What journey is this? I'm not even sure, because in the book, it was a journey from Bobby back to Bobby. And I thought the first 2 episodes were kind of that way. Then our second recap, I was like, okay, they're going to instead do like Bobby's always been there, and we're going to journey off in little places, but it's always the central theme. And now here it's more like one woman's journey to losing herself, to finding herself again, which those are actually different stories. Those are different like tropes. Those are different arcs. So where is this going?
And I like those stories.
I love all of them. But you gotta pick one. I mean,
right. But exactly. And also, though, that's not really, as you pointed out from the beginning, that's not really Sally Rooney's story, the individual, like her losing herself and finding herself. I mean, I'm a huge fan of those, but that's not what her stories are about.
No, they're not.
There's no, from the woman who wrote There's No Such Thing as the Individual. I mean, this is a direct quote from Sally Rooney. She would not write that story.
No.
It's antithetical to her being.
Yes, and to what she wants to explore. So, yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll see, I guess.
Oh, we're obviously not going to stop. That's for sure.
There's no stopping us now.
Oh, wow.
So
That's
next
a song.
We have Don't Stop.
I did that to see if you would sing. I did. And I only got like a little bit. But I'm like...
No, it's not a favorite song of mine.
No stopping us now.
That's a different one. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to be back with 9 and 10.
Yes, we are.
And then see where they're leading us. And we'll project what's going to happen for the end, which we'll see. I know.
Yeah, because, I did like that ending in the book. And if
you did. Wait, I think you called it the best one.
I did call it the best one. And so I'm getting a little nervous now. Oh, there's no way. I'm going to have a problem. I've already decided. Yeah. I hope not, but...
Yeah, it's not looking great because that ending where they end with on Nick and Frances really does need to go through the whole journey of them.
Yep.
And we're not seeing that.
I just don't know how you get to that from where we are now.
Hey, maybe they are. I mean, look, we just read that part, that line. You just even said that line. I've been in love with you since before I met you, whatever. So
maybe some of that's coming out.
I'm so optimistic. I can't. It didn't prove out last time. So we'll see.
We'll see. We'll be back.
We'll see. Yes, we'll be back.